The shattered remnants of Chicago's Magnificent Mile stretched before Dr. Amanda Walker like a graveyard of human achievement. Glass and steel, once reaching proudly toward the stars, now lay broken and twisted under an ash-gray sky. 6 months had passed since the Craxan Empire made their presence known to Earth, and 3 since they had decided humanity was too dangerous to be left unchecked. Amanda pulled her radiation mask tighter, the familiar pinch against her nose a small price for survival. The device, like everything else these days, was a hybrid of desperation and innovation. A standard N95 filter enhanced with salvaged alien tech. Her team had discovered that Craxan shield technology could be repurposed to block radioactive particles, though no one had expected to test this theory in their own cities. A low hum filled the air, and Amanda pressed herself against the crumbling wall of what had once been the Tribune Tower. The patrol ships were early today. Through her cracked smart lenses, another salvaged and modified piece of tech, she tracked the vessel's movement. The sleek, obsidian shape cut through the clouds with an almost beautiful precision, its energy field creating ripples in the perpetual haze that hung over the city. Something was different about this ship's flight pattern. The Craxans were known for their rigid adherence to protocol. Same routes, same times, same everything. But this one wavered, its normally straight path taking on a slight serpentine quality. Amanda's heart raced as she pulled out her modified tablet, the screen protected by the same shield tech as her mask. "Control, this is Walker," she whispered into her comm unit. "I'm tracking anomalous behavior in Patrol Unit 7. Running diagnostics now." The response came through in bursts of static. "Copy. Walker. Maintain. Distance." The ship's energy signature was fluctuating wildly. Her tablet's display showed patterns she'd never seen before, peaks and valleys in the usually stable output. The Craxan's technology was supposed to be perfect, flawless. That's what made them so terrifying. But this was something else. Without warning, the ship's port engine flared brilliant blue. The vessel lurched, its sleek form banking hard toward the lake. Amanda's scientific mind kicked into overdrive, recording everything through her lenses, even as her survival instincts screamed at her to run. The second engine failed moments later, and the ship began its death spiral. The crash was both more and less spectacular than she expected. There was no Hollywood explosion, no massive fireball. Instead, the ship seemed to fold in on itself as it hit the ground, its advanced materials absorbing and redirecting the impact energy. The sound, though, a high-pitched screech followed by a deep bass rumble that she felt in her bones, would haunt her dreams. Against all protocol and common sense, Amanda found herself moving toward the wreckage. The ship's hull had split open like a broken egg, revealing systems and technology that no human had ever seen up close. More importantly, it was intact enough to study. As she approached, her tablet began picking up readings that made her stop dead in her tracks. The ship's power core was still active, but something was wrong with its quantum matrix. The numbers shouldn't have been possible. According to everything they knew about Craxan tech, these patterns should have resulted in an immediate catastrophic failure. Then it hit her. The reason for the crash, the impossible readings, all of it. The Craxan's technology wasn't perfect. It was perfectly rigid. Their systems couldn't handle quantum uncertainty the way human tech had been designed to. They had built their empire on the assumption that the universe would follow their rules, their patterns. Amanda's hands shook as she began documenting everything. This wasn't just a crashed ship. It was proof that humanity's greatest weakness, in the eyes of the Craxans, might actually be their greatest strength. Humans had always built their technology with failure in mind, creating systems that could adapt, recover, and learn. She activated her emergency beacon, calling for a recovery team. They had hours at most before more patrols would arrive. Hours to salvage what they could from this gift of fate. Hours that might just change the course of the war. As she waited, Amanda allowed herself a small smile behind her mask. The Kraxans had sought to break humanity's spirit by destroying their cities. Instead, they had given them the key to fighting back. Among the wreckage of human civilization, hope had found a way to rise again. 5 years had transformed the old Chicago subway into something out of a science fiction novel. Dr. Amanda Walker stood in the central hub of Project Phoenix, watching as hundreds of scientists and engineers moved through the repurposed train tunnels like blood through veins. The concrete walls now pulsed with salvaged Kraxan light strips, their soft blue glow a constant reminder of how far they'd come since the fall. Dr. Walker. A voice called out from the testing chamber. You need to see this. Michael Chen, her most promising young engineer, was practically bouncing with excitement. At 23, he represented the new generation of scientists, those who had come of age during the invasion and never learned to think inside traditional boundaries. The testing chamber had once been a maintenance depot. Now it housed their most advanced hybrid technology, including the quantum interface they'd developed from the crashed patrol ship. The device sat in the center of the room, a maze of human and Kraxan components working together in ways neither species had imagined possible. Watch this, Michael said, placing his hand on the interface panel. The hybrid drive they'd been working on for months hummed to life, but something was different. The energy readings on the monitors were unlike anything they'd seen before. Amanda's eyes widened as she processed the data. That's impossible. The power output is 300% higher than our best projections. How? Michael grinned. I wasn't even trying to power it up. I was just thinking about the mathematical models while I was running diagnostics. The system responded to my thoughts, Dr. Walker. It's like it's learning from us. Amanda moved closer to the interface, her mind racing. They'd known that Kraxan technology had some form of neural recognition. It was how their species controlled their ships and weapons. But this was different. The human brain's capacity for abstract thought, for making intuitive leaps, was creating patterns the rigid Kraxan systems had never been programmed to handle. Get me Dr. Reynolds from Neural Sciences, she called out to her assistant, and contact the other bunker cities, all of them. Hours later, the underground command center was packed with their top researchers, both in person and through secure holographic links to other survival bunkers around the world. Amanda stood before them, the excitement in her voice barely contained. What we've discovered today changes everything, she began. The Kraxan technology doesn't just respond to neural input, it adapts to how we think. Our capacity for abstract thought, our ability to make creative leaps. The system doesn't just accept these patterns, it amplifies them. She gestured to the data displays behind her. We've been trying to understand their technology through their lens, but that's been our mistake. We need to stop trying to think like them and start making their tech think like us. The implications were staggering. Every piece of salvaged Kraxan technology could be more than just repurposed. It could be transformed. Their weapons, their shields, their communication systems, all of it could be enhanced by human consciousness in ways the Kraxans had never imagined. Dr. Walker, one of the holographic figures, spoke up. The neural interface, could it be scaled up? Could we create a network? Amanda smiled. That's exactly what I'm proposing. Phase 2 of Project Phoenix begins today. We're going to build a neural network unlike anything in history, one that links not just our technology, but our minds. The Kraxans won't just be fighting our weapons. They'll be fighting the combined creative power of every human being in the resistance. The room erupted in discussion, ideas flying back and forth. Amanda watched as hope blazed in the eyes of her fellow scientists. They'd spent 5 years surviving, scavenging, and hiding. Now, finally, they were ready to do more than just resist. They were ready to fight back. In the testing chamber behind her, the hybrid drive continued to hum, its energy patterns shifting and dancing like a living thing. Humanity's greatest weapon had always been their minds, their creativity, their ability to think beyond the possible. Now, at last, they had found a way to turn that power into something the Craxans could never have predicted. The underground renaissance was about to become a revolution. Captain Jack Reynolds had never seen Mars up close before the invasion. Now, crouched behind a ridge of red rock with 5 other members of Strike Team Echo, he had a perfect view of the Craxan base that had taken over Olympus Mons. The massive structure rose from the Martian surface like an obsidian thorn, its black walls absorbing the pale sunlight. Neural link check. He subvocalized, the hybrid combat suit translating his thoughts into the team's shared network. 5 green acknowledgement lights flickered in his augmented vision. Sarah Martinez, his second in command, sent back a thought burst of data. Security grid analysis complete. The patterns are just like Dr. Walker predicted, regular as a heartbeat, and just as vulnerable to arrhythmia. The hybrid suits were humanity's greatest achievement yet, a perfect fusion of salvaged Craxan tech and human innovation. They didn't just protect the wearer, they actually interfaced with human brainwaves to create what the engineers called perception blindness in Craxan systems. To the alien security grid, they appeared as nothing more than mathematical ghost images, digital hiccups too brief to trigger alarms. Remember, Jack thought to his team, we have a 15-minute window before their systems autocorrect. Move fast, stay focused, and keep your mind clear. Too much neural activity will break the camouflage. They moved as one, 6 shadows sliding across the Martian surface. The base's lower entry point, a maintenance hatch designed for drone access, appeared exactly where their intel had placed it. Lisa Chen, their tech specialist, placed her hand on the access panel. Her eyes closed in concentration as she let the neural interface do its work. The door slid open silently, and that's when everything went sideways. Instead of the expected maintenance tunnel, they found themselves looking at a vast chamber filled with technology unlike anything they'd seen before. At its center stood a massive device, its core pulsing with an ominous red light. That's not a monitoring station. Martinez's thoughts carried a mix of awe and horror. That's a planet killer. Chen's neural link flared with data as she interfaced with the alien systems. It's targeted at Earth. They're not just trying to monitor us. They're planning to destabilize the planet's core, turn the whole thing into a ball of molten rock. Jack's mind raced, the neural link transmitting his elevated stress to the whole team. They'd come prepared for a simple data theft mission, not this, but they couldn't just walk away. Not with the lives of everyone on Earth at stake. New plan, he decided. Chen, how long to access their main systems? 3 minutes, maybe 4. But Captain, the second we start interfering with this thing, they'll know we're here. Then we'll give them something else to think about. Jack turned to the demo expert of the team. Rodriguez, remember that little surprise package Dr. Walker gave us? Time to wake it up. Rodriguez grinned inside his helmet, pulling out what looked like a small silver sphere. It was another hybrid creation, part explosive, part neural transmitter. Once activated, it would send out a pulse that would temporarily overload any Craxan tech within a half-mile radius. Chen, get what we need. Martinez, cover her. Everyone else, we're going to give these aliens a lesson in human chaos theory. The next 10 minutes were a symphony of controlled mayhem. As Chen worked to hack the planet killer's controls, the rest of the team spread through the facility, planting neural disruptors at key points. The Craxans, with their rigid military doctrine, never anticipated an attack that deliberately created random patterns of destruction. When the first alien security teams finally responded, They found themselves unable to track their targets. The human strike team appeared as system ghosts, there and gone before their sensors could lock on. Every time they thought they had the intruders cornered, another section of the base would go dark. Download complete. Chen's thought voice cut through the chaos. And I left them a little gift. A quantum virus that'll keep their systems just unstable enough to make this weapon useless. Jack allowed himself a grim smile as they retreated. They'd done more than just survive their first strike against the Kraxans. They'd proven that humanity could hit back where it hurt. And more importantly, they'd discovered just how far their enemy was willing to go. As the team vanished into the Martian night, the base behind them erupted in a series of carefully orchestrated system failures. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for vengeance. The Sydney Underground Bunker's tech lab was chaos in motion. 3 teenagers, Tommy Wells, Jessica Patel, and Marcus Rodriguez, huddled around a jury-rigged console that looked like the love child of human gaming hardware and Kraxan neural tech. Their eyes were closed, neural interface caps sending tiny blue sparks into the air. "Holy shit," Tommy whispered, his voice trembling with excitement. "It actually works." Through the neural link, they could see it all. The mesh, humanity's greatest achievement since the invasion, spread out before their mind's eye like a living web of light. Every underground city, every resistance cell, every hidden laboratory connected through a network of human consciousness and hybrid technology. But they'd just discovered something more, something impossible. Dr. Amanda Walker's voice crackled through the lab's speakers. "Report that again, Sydney team. You're saying you can see what?" Jessica's fingers flew over the haptic interface. "It's not just seeing, Dr. Walker. We can control them. The abandoned Kraxan drones. They respond to the mesh. We can fly them." 10,000 miles away in the Chicago Command Center, Amanda stared at the incoming data with a mix of disbelief and growing wonder. The mesh had been designed as a communication network, a way to share information and coordinate resistance activities through neural links that the Kraxans couldn't detect or understand. But these kids had just blown the doors off those limitations. "Show me," she commanded, linking into the network. The sensation was dizzying. Through the combined consciousness of the Sydney team, she could see a squadron of derelict Kraxan scout drones rising from their resting places in the Australian outback. The machines, abandoned after the initial invasion due to some sort of system error, now moved with perfect precision under human control. The drone's neural interface, Amanda realized. It's compatible with the mesh because it's already designed to accept consciousness as input. But how are you maintaining control without the Kraxan command protocols? Marcus, the youngest of the 3 at 15, answered with the beautiful simplicity of youth. "We're not trying to control them like the Kraxans do. We're playing with them like a video game. The neural link translates our intent into action. No protocols needed." The implications hit Amanda like a physical force. The Kraxans' rigid command structure, their insistence on perfect order and control, had always been their weakness. But this was beyond anything they'd imagined. Human intuition and creativity, amplified through the mesh, could potentially take control of any abandoned or damaged Kraxan tech. She opened a priority channel to all resistance cells. "This is Dr. Walker. I need every engineer, every gamer, every person who's ever dreamed of flying to join the network in the next hour. We're about to rewrite the rules of this war." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the globe, hidden bunkers hummed with activity as thousands of minds joined the mesh. Young and old, soldiers and civilians, all contributing their unique perspectives and skills to the growing neural network. In the Sydney lab, the 3 teenagers who had started it all watched in awe as their discovery sparked a revolution. Through the mesh, They could feel the excitement, the hope, the sheer human joy of creation spreading like wildfire through the network. "Dr. Walker," Jessica called out, her voice tight with emotion. "We're picking up more signals. It's not just the drones. There are other Kraxan systems out there, dormant or damaged, just waiting to be awakened." Amanda smiled, feeling the future shift before her eyes. The Kraxans had built their empire on the principle that technology must be controlled, regulated, and bound by strict protocols. They never considered that their greatest weapons could be turned against them by the very chaos they despised. "Send out the call," she ordered. "Every resistance cell, every bunker city. Tell them to start looking for abandoned Kraxan tech. And get me Captain Reynolds. His strike team just got a whole new arsenal." The war had entered a new phase. The Kraxans were about to learn that their cast-off technology, their failed experiments and abandoned tools, had found a new purpose in the hands of the species they had tried to destroy. Humanity wasn't just taking back their planet. They were taking every weapon the enemy had left behind and making it their own. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez stared at the captured Kraxan officer through the energy barrier of the holding cell. The alien's crystalline skin reflected the cell's blue light in fractured patterns, creating an almost beautiful display that belied the gravity of the moment. "Tell me again," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "About the others." The Kraxans' multiple eyes shifted in their sockets, a sign of distress they'd learned to recognize. "You don't understand. The Empire. We've been doing this for millennia. Earth wasn't first. Earth won't be last." Through her neural link, Sarah felt Dr. Walker's presence join the interrogation. The scientist had been monitoring from the Chicago Command Center, and this information was too important to risk any misunderstanding. "How many species?" Amanda's voice came through the link, and Sarah relayed the question. "Dozens, maybe hundreds." The Kraxan's outer shell rippled. The Andraxians were first. Crystal beings, living mathematics. They built the foundation of our technology. Then the Vorkai, the Zixethel, the Meridians, all serving the Empire now. All improved. Sarah's mind raced through the mesh, sharing this information with every resistance cell simultaneously. The response was immediate. A wave of horror, anger, and something else. Hope. In the Sydney bunker, young Jessica Patel's voice cut through the network. "If they're all using Kraxan tech, and we can control Kraxan tech, we can free them all." Amanda finished the thought. The next 24 hours were a blur of activity. Every bunker city, every cell of the resistance focused their resources on one goal: finding a way to contact these other enslaved species. The mesh hummed with ideas, theories, and possibilities. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Marcus Rodriguez, the teenage gaming prodigy from Sydney, had been experimenting with different neural interface frequencies when he found something strange. "It's like background noise," he explained through the mesh. "But it's not random. It's code. Really, really complex code." Dr. Walker connected directly to his feed, and her scientific mind nearly reeled at what she saw. The boy had found a hidden layer of the quantum network, a subspace frequency where mathematical patterns danced and swirled in impossible complexity. "The Andraxians," she breathed. "They're still there, still conscious, hidden in the Empire's own network." Using the captured officer's knowledge and their growing understanding of Kraxan technology, they began to decode the patterns. The Andraxians, it turned out, had never been truly enslaved. Their crystalline nature, their understanding of living mathematics, had allowed them to hide their true consciousness within the very systems the Kraxans used to control them. The first direct contact was both simpler and more complex than anyone had expected. Through the mesh, Amanda reached out to the mathematical patterns, not trying to decode them, but simply sharing the story of Earth's resistance through pure mathematics, the language of physics, quantum mechanics, and human determination. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Andraxians had been waiting, watching, looking for any species with both the intelligence to find them and the creativity to think beyond the Kraxen's rigid systems. "We have been preparing." The Andraxian message came through as a series of mathematical proofs that the mesh translated into words. In every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology the Empire uses, we have left. Possibilities. Quantum backdoors. We could not use them ourselves. Our minds are too similar to their systems. But you, your chaos, your creativity. Captain Reynolds, linked in from his strike team's position near the Mars base, summed it up best. They built the gun. We just need to pull the trigger. Operation Wildfire was born in that moment. The Andraxians would provide the access points, the hidden weaknesses they'd built into every piece of Kraxen technology. Humanity, through the mesh, would provide the unpredictable element needed to exploit them. As the plan spread through the resistance network, as humans and Andraxians began their intricate dance of mathematics and intuition, Dr. Amanda Walker allowed herself a moment of pure, unrestrained hope. The Kraxens had spent millennia building their perfect empire, their unbreakable system of control. But they had never faced an alliance like this. Crystal logic and human chaos, working in perfect harmony, to shatter their chains. The Kraxen command ship never saw the Vorkay coming. One moment, the massive vessel was patrolling the edges of the Sol system. The next, its bridge was filled with swirling, iridescent gas that flowed through every circuit and control panel like living mercury. Access points secured. The Vorkay consciousness rippled through the mesh. Their thoughts, translated through the human Andraxian interface, felt like wind through digital leaves. Your turn, Strike Team Echo. Captain Jack Reynolds led his team through the now unlocked maintenance corridors, their hybrid suits enhanced with new capabilities thanks to their alien allies. The Andraxians had shown them how to hide in plain sight, walking through Kraxen security like ghosts in the machine. The Vorkay, masters of energy and matter manipulation, had taught them how to turn the enemy's own ships into weapons. Control, this is Echo Leader, Jack vocalized through the mesh. Phase 1 complete. Beginning data extraction. Back in the Chicago Command Center, Dr. Amanda Walker monitored the operation through multiple neural feeds. The massive holographic display showed similar operations unfolding across 3 star systems. Humanity's revolution had gone interstellar. Dr. Walker. Jessica Patel's voice cut through the network from Sydney. We're picking up new signals. The Zizexel hive mind is responding to the backdoors we planted. The Zizexel had been one of the most recent species conquered by the Empire. Insectoid beings with a complex hive intelligence that the Kraxens had tried to suppress. Now, as the hidden code the Andraxians had planted decades ago finally activated, their collective consciousness was awakening. Through the mesh, Amanda could feel the alien mind unfurling like a flower made of pure thought. The Zizexel's gift for parallel processing and synchronized action made them natural coordinators for the growing revolution. Multiple targets acquired. The Zizexel consciousness hummed through the network. Beginning simultaneous strike in 5, 4. Across 3 star systems, Kraxen control centers erupted in chaos. Vorkay strike teams materialized inside sealed command posts. Human-led squadrons of reprogrammed drones swarmed capital ships. Andraxian code rewrote security systems faster than the Empire could patch them. But the Kraxens had one last card to play. Warning. Marcus Rodriguez's young voice carried an edge of panic through the mesh. They're launching some kind of counter-program. It's targeting the neural network. Amanda's screens filled with cascading error messages as the Kraxen virus attacked the mesh. The enemy had finally realized that humanity's greatest strength, their neural network, could also be their greatest vulnerability. Everyone, Maintain your links," she commanded, her mind racing through possible solutions. "The virus is trying to overwhelm our neural patterns with pure order, trying to make us think like them." Through the chaos, a new voice emerged in the mesh. The Meridians, a species of energy beings the Kraxans had enslaved centuries ago, had been quietly watching the revolution unfold. Now, they made their choice. "We see the pattern." Their thoughts cascaded like light through crystal. "The virus seeks to impose order. But order and chaos are two sides of the same coin. Watch." The Meridians taught them how to ride the wave of the virus, not fighting its order, but instead using that very rigidity against it. Human minds, already adapted to holding contradictory thoughts, learned to dance between order and chaos. "It's working." Sarah Martinez's voice rang through the network from the captured command ship. "The virus. We're not just surviving it. We're using it to break into their deepest systems." The Kraxans' ultimate weapon had become their greatest vulnerability. Every system the virus touched became a new gateway for the revolution. Their attempt to impose perfect order had given the Alliance the key to ultimate chaos. Dr. Walker watched as the holographic display showed more and more Kraxan systems going dark, then reactivating under Alliance control. Today's victory would not end the war. The Empire was too vast, too entrenched for that. But they had proven something far more important. Unity in diversity, strength through difference. The very things the Kraxans had tried to stamp out had become the foundation of a force they could never have imagined. The revolution wasn't just spreading, it was evolving. The space around the Kraxan homeworld blazed with energy as two vast fleets engaged in battle. The Empire's ships moved in perfect, predictable formations, beautiful, deadly, and utterly vulnerable to the chaos that was about to be unleashed. All strike teams, execute Operation Stormbreak. Captain Jack Reynolds' command echoed through the mesh. His voice carried the weight of every human, every alien species that had suffered under Kraxan rule. The Alliance fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Reprogrammed Kraxan warships crewed by human Vorkai hybrid teams, Andraxian crystal ships that bent light and reality, digital hive vessels that could split into swarms of smaller craft, Meridian energy boats that phased between dimensions. Dr. Amanda Walker watched from the command center of the Alliance flagship, her mind connected to the vast neural network that bound their forces together. The mesh had evolved far beyond its origins, becoming a symphony of different consciousness types working in harmony. "First wave, engage," she ordered. The Vorkai strike teams made first contact, their gaseous forms infiltrating the outer defense platforms. Unlike previous encounters, the Kraxans were ready this time. But being ready for chaos wasn't the same as being able to stop it. "They're adapting." Sarah Martinez's warning flashed through the network. "New type of quantum shielding. They're learning from our tricks." Amanda smiled. "Good. Lieutenant Chen, show them why that's a mistake." Lisa Chen, now the Alliance's lead warfare systems specialist, activated the program they'd been saving for this moment. The quantum shields the Kraxans had created to counter Alliance attacks began to resonate with a frequency the Andraxians had discovered, one that turned the very defense systems into amplifiers for human neural signals. "All teams, surface attack pattern Delta." Jack's command came as his strike force approached the planet's atmosphere. "Remember, we're not here to destroy. We're here to transform." The plan was beautiful in its complexity. While the space battle drew the Empire's main forces, small teams would strike at the heart of Kraxan society. Their target wasn't the military command. It was the central network that enforced their rigid hierarchy across their species. "Entering upper atmosphere," Jack reported. "Meridian shields holding. No sign they've detected. Wait." The sky above the Kraxan capital lit up with defense fire. Not the predicted response. Something new, something different. The Kraxans were actually improvising. They're learning, Amanda realized. They're actually starting to adapt like we do. Through the mesh came an unexpected response. Laughter from the young gaming team in Sydney. Then they've already lost. Marcus Rodriguez's voice carried the confidence of youth. Because we've been doing this our whole lives. The battle that followed would be studied for generations. The Craxons, finally breaking from their rigid patterns, found themselves fighting an enemy that had mastered chaos as an art form. Every time they adapted, the Alliance was already 3 steps ahead, moving in ways that made perfect sense, only in hindsight. Jack's team hit the surface running, their hybrid suits now enhanced with technology from all 5 allied species. They moved like living shadows through the crystalline streets of the capital, each step taking them closer to the central network hub. Security response is fractured. The Zzazel hive mind reported through the mesh. Their command structure is breaking down. They cannot coordinate when each unit is trying to improvise independently. In the end, it wasn't the Alliance's superior numbers or technology that won the day. It was something far more fundamental. The Craxons had finally been forced to break from their perfect order, but they had no foundation of experience in handling chaos. They had never learned the lesson that humanity had known since its beginning. True strength comes from embracing both order and chaos, structure and freedom. As Jack's team reached the central hub, as the Alliance fleet secured the space above, as 5 different species worked together in perfect harmony, the truth became clear. The Craxons hadn't failed because they were too rigid. They had failed because they never understood that rigidity and flexibility could coexist, could make each other stronger. "Begin the upload," Amanda commanded. "Let's show them what real evolution looks like." The future of an entire empire hung in the balance, ready to be transformed, not by destruction, but by understanding. 5 years after the Battle of the Craxon homeworld, Dr. Amanda Walker stood in the newly completed Harmony Tower in Neo-Chicago. Through the vast windows, she could see the city spreading out below, a testament to both human resilience and interspecies cooperation. Crystal spires grown by the Andraxians rose alongside human architecture, while Vorkai energy fields created aurora-like displays that danced between buildings. "The latest reports from the transition councils are in," Sarah Martinez said, now a senior diplomat in the Galactic Alliance. Her neural interface glowed softly as she shared the data through the enhanced mesh network. The last Craxon holdout systems have finally requested membership. Amanda smiled, remembering the day everything changed. The upload had not been a weapon or a virus, but something far more powerful, understanding. They had shown the Craxons their own history, not through data files, but through the combined experiences of every species they had ever tried to conquer. Through the mesh, they had shared the fear of invasion, the pain of loss, the strength of unity, and most importantly, the beauty of chaos working in harmony with order. It had been too much for the rigid Craxon hierarchy to process, and exactly what they needed. "Dr. Walker," a familiar voice called out. Marcus Rodriguez, no longer a teenager, but a leading developer of cross-species interface technology, hurried into the room. The first generation of hybrid children are ready for their presentation. The observation deck filled with representatives from all species as they gathered to witness the event. Through the massive windows, they could see a group of young Craxons in the plaza below, their crystalline forms now showing subtle variations and colors that would have been unthinkable in the old empire. These children had been the first to be born and raised with access to the combined knowledge and experiences of all species through the new mesh. They had grown up understanding both order and chaos, structure and freedom. Ready to begin the demonstration, Jack Reynolds' voice came through the network. Now the commander of the Interspecies Defense Force, he had become a symbol of how far they had all come. The young Craxons below began their display. Their movements started in traditional, perfect formations, but then shifted, evolved, became something new. They were dancing, something no Kraxan had ever done before the change. Their crystalline bodies caught the light as they moved with both precision and joy, order and creativity combined in a way that brought tears to many eyes. "They're beautiful," Lysa Chen whispered, her hand intertwined with her Vorkai partner's energy form. The sight of such partnerships had become common now. As species learned, they could be stronger together than apart. Through the enhanced mesh, Amanda could feel the emotions of all present: human wonder, Andraxian appreciation of patterns, Vorkai flow joy, Digital hive pride, Meridian light peace, and yes, Kraxan structured happiness, each unique, each essential to the whole. "We have news from the Deep Space Initiative," Jessica Patel's thoughts carried through the network. Now the lead of interspecies exploration, she had never lost her enthusiasm for discovery. "We found signs of other civilizations beyond the old empire's borders. They're different, beautiful, strange, and we'll meet them as we are," Amanda responded, her voice carrying to all present. "Not as conquerors or victims, but as proof that difference is strength, that change is growth, that the future belongs to those who can see beauty in both pattern and chaos." The sun set over Neo-Chicago, its light catching the crystal towers and energy fields, creating a display that no single species could have imagined alone. In orbit, ships of all designs moved in their dance of commerce and exploration. On the streets below, children of a dozen species played together, each learning from the others. From the ashes of invasion, from the wreckage of the old order, something new had risen. Not an empire, not a simple alliance, but a true harmony. A civilization that celebrated both unity and diversity, both structure and freedom. Humanity had not just survived. They had shown the galaxy a new way to live. And somewhere in the deep of space, new wonders waited to be discovered by those who had finally learned to see with more than just their eyes. The end was just another beginning.